And welcome to another edition of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Executive producer Chase Smith, thank you for allowing us to be back at it again. Producer extraordinaire Dave Emmert, making sure we sound good. The Reds, we always look forward to getting together to talk sports. And in this case, Reg, the NFL draft. We did a show earlier in the week previewing the draft. And now here we are recapping the Cleveland Browns as well as the AFC North. Let's start with the Brownies, and head coach Kevin Stefanski has to be loving life, as does Joe Woods, the defensive coordinator, and Andrew Berry. I was concerned when they signed him, Reg. I thought he was too young. He was part of Saushi's Browns, the front office and everything. I'm like, what are they doing? They're going to these young guys that they haven't been around long enough. What do they know about football? Well, turns out they may know a hell of a lot more than me. That's for damn sure, with what he's done in his first two drafts as the general manager of the Cleveland Browns. So a tip of the cap to Andrew Berry, Paul DePodesta, and that entire staff, Reg. I'll just tell you right out of the gate, I give them an A for this year's draft, and the offseason is an A. And I think the Browns have the most talented roster in the AFC North and right up there in the AFC. How about that?
That is rather compelling, Mr. Rhoda. Right off the chute there for you, going straight to the top of the class
strong,
with an A.
Red Guy. I'm bringing it strong early with my thoughts.
You are bringing it strong. That's incredibly strong. I'm very proud of you for that. And it was an exciting weekend. I thought the city of Cleveland showed tremendously well for the country and for the entire pro football world, quite frankly. But in getting to Andrew Berry, Kenny, he's a soft-spoken guy. He's not a yeller and a screamer. He's a man of few words. But again, and I think we alluded to this, Kenny. I think you and I identified Greg Newsome on Wednesday night when we did our draft preview, did we not, as the guy he wanted. Now, would he have had the opportunity to get J.C. Horn? As I told you Wednesday, I think that would have been his guy. But look how far he would have to move up in the top 10. Not doable. But after that, without question, Greg Newsome, the very physically gifted, plays hard. I love the way the young man tackles. I love his physical presence as a tackler in space, as a cornerback. He's an outstanding coverage guy. And though, what you hear when you hear Andrew Berry talk, and I think Paul DePodesta even said this as well, Kenny, they want guys that were multi-year performers that did very well with the Power 5 programs, right? We heard them say that. And if you look at the draft board, the only one that was not a Power 5 guy was one from one of the top group of 5 programs in the country. Luke Fickell in Cincinnati is offensive tackle James Hudson. So they said, we want players who are aggressive in their path to the NFL and played with excellent programs. And Kenny, that's pretty much exactly what they got, starting with Greg Newsome, who, as I told you Wednesday, Ken, I think he's going to hit a home run, man. I think this young man has a chance to be a Pro Bowl type corner within the first few years of his career. I think he's that special.
Michael, as I look at the NFL and we hear front offices talk, there are 4 positions that stand out in the National Football League that you must have if you're going to have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And we're talking about Pro Bowl caliber players at these positions. You must have a franchise caliber quarterback. Check, Baker Mayfield, right? Some people think he's a Pro Bowl caliber guy the way he played in the second half of the season last year. So first overall pick in the first round, check, quarterback. Then you must have somebody that can get after the quarterback. Check. Myles Garrett, first overall pick in the first round. And you've added, another first overall pick in the first round, Jadeveon Clowney. Now, whether, he lives up to expectations, we'll have to wait and see. But you've got 2 first overall picks there at the defensive end position. So those are 2 out of the 4 positions. Mm-hmm. Then you go where you got to have a left tackle to protect your quarterback. Check. 10th overall pick last year in the first round, Jedrick Wills, right?
Yep.
And then rounding it out, you better have cornerbacks in a pass-happy league. And check. 4th overall pick a few years ago in the first round in Denzel Ward. And then just the other day, the Browns go back in the first round, 26th overall pick, and they get Greg Newsome, the second out of Northwestern. So check. So the four most important positions, Reg, they've got 6 guys right there, right? And that's what you look for to build your team. Then you add the other positions around those guys. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I think roster-wise, talent-wise, they're as talented as the top 5 teams in the entire National Football League, and maybe the most talented in the AFC North.
Yeah, I think so. And certainly, I guess if you want to draw at straws there, some might say, and Raven fans might say, our roster is a little bit better. And okay, I mean, I will tell you this roster, and he's built it from the inside out. You brought up Jedrick Wills. Don't forget he signed Jack Conklin as a free agent going into the 2020 season. And Conklin is a quality veteran offensive tackle playing on the right side. And so I think that, again, when you look at roster composition, this is something that was you mentioned how you weren't sure about Andrew Berry. That's what I was looking to see. All right, yeah, I know you, because I certainly was not pleased at all with the way they were going about it in the couple of years that Sashi Brown was their general manager. So, but we said we can't hold that against Andrew Berry. He's going to be his own man.
Right.
And I think if you're a Browns fan, you've got to be thrilled at how this roster has developed. And it's not stopping yet. We'll get into it later on. There's only one draft pick that he made throughout the course of the weekend that again, and who knows, maybe the kid comes in and we'll get into it later on. But there's only one that I kind of went, that's a little bit surprising, a little puzzler. But so Berry has done a fantastic job. And now, as we know, the next step is, continue to develop your young players. And in this case, the draft they just had. And we know we're going to see how he does with contract signings and extensions, Kenny, with the likes of Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb and Denzel Ward. And those 3 most prominently as they get in their 5th year.
All right, looking at this draft class real quick, we'll run through them all, Reg.
Sure.
First round pick, Greg Newsome, cornerback, 6 foot, 192 out of Northwestern. And then maybe the steal of the draft, they were thinking about taking them at 26. They said, nope, we need the cornerback. Let's wait and see what happens. They move up from 59 to 52. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker from Notre Dame, 6'2", 221. They added a wide receiver, the fastest wide receiver in the draft in the 3rd round, pick 91, Anthony Schwartz. May the Schwartz be with you. Wide receiver, 6 foot, 186 out of Auburn. In the 4th round, you've mentioned him a couple of times, James Hudson, offensive tackle, 6'5", 313 from Cincinnati. Also in the 4th round, I love this pick, man. Tommy Togiai, defensive tackle from the Ohio State University, 6'2", 296. He threw up and down the 225 bench press 40 times on his pro day. So he's a nasty guy with some strength, and in the middle, he can collapse the pocket. I thought that was a steal. Tony Fields in the 5th round, linebacker, 6 foot, 222 out of West Virginia. Also in the 5th round, let's see here, Richard LeCounte, safety, 5'11", buck 96 out of Georgia. And then rounding it out, they got a running back in the 6th round, Demetric Felton out of UCLA, 5'9", 190. So that's this draft class. And like I said, I gave it overall, Reg, an A. And like I said, Newsome, JOK, and when he added Tommy Togiai right there, I love those 3 picks for the way this team is built and what they do.
Yeah, and it, as we just said a moment ago, so we don't need to keep harping on it, but it continues to go on as to how he wants to build this roster, Kenny. And we'll continue on with this, to be sure. But we got a real special guest tonight, Kenny Rhoda, as we're going to look around the AFC North. And I thought, you know what, we got to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and then the Pittsburgh Steelers and also the Baltimore Ravens, too, about how they did things. And I tell you, when we start with the Cincinnati Bengals, we are going to welcome in to the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast, a guy that I've worked with doing ESPN college football and who is a just a very talented broadcaster who played the game at a high level. We're going to have a chance to chat with Rocky Boiman coming up here in just a moment. Rocky in Cincinnati, and who follows the Bengals very, very closely on his shows at WLW Radio.
All right, let's do this then. Let's get a break in so we can bring Rocky back in with us after this timeout, and we'll talk some Bengals. And as a former Notre Dame player, he might be able to tell us a little bit more about
Yes.
JOK, why he fell, and if that indeed is the steal of the draft for the Cleveland Browns. So we'll talk with Rocky next here on the R&R podcast.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. I created this podcast to have hard conversations. Conversations that make us human but are also wildly uncomfortable. Conversations that help give voice to the voiceless and to the marginalized. Now you can listen to the entire first season on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Consider this your personal invitation to join the conversation.
So great to have all of you along on this NFL Draft Review edition of our Reggae and Rhoda podcast. And what a delight it is for me to be able to bring in a young man who has done such a fantastic job and continues to do so with his work at WLW Radio in Cincinnati. And also, of course, I first met Rocky Boiman when we called ESPN College Football together. Not too many years ago, as Rocky was getting out of his playing career in the National Football League and starting on the broadcasting side. Rocky Boiman, great to have you with us, my man. How are you?
Reg, I'm honored to be with you, brother. I'm glad you're doing well. And we had some great memories calling some of them MAC games up there in Bowling Green and all that. That was fun, buddy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we wanted to have you on because I said, listen, we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and the AFC North. Nobody better than Rocky Boiman to assess and evaluate, as you do, as we said, on WLW Radio to your vast listening audience. Rocky, he had pride of St. X, baby, in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then played his college football at Notre Dame before a real nice career in the NFL. And you got a Super Bowl ring out of it too, buddy. That's phenomenal for being a guy that went in and played special teams and got your opportunity and wind up winning the championship. You got to feel tremendous about that.
Yeah, man, it was great. Like that. It'll take a whole podcast to tell you about my 2006 year. I started off with the Dallas Cowboys and signed a 3-year deal, got released, because I got hurt in camp and almost quit football, but then I ended up with the Colts and ended up being a part of a team that wins the Super Bowl. Man, it was great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right. Again, we're excited and delighted to have you. Now let's jump in to the Cincinnati Bengals and what they decided to do. Zach Taylor and his squad go 4-11-1 a year ago. You got the quarterback, you got the elite quarterback. But Rock, there was all I was hearing out of Cincinnati as well. You going to take Jamar Chase, the elite receiver, or do you want to get Burrow more protection with Penei Sewell or maybe even Rashawn Slater? All right, it was Chase right there. We'll get into where they went to get that offensive tackle coming up in a moment. But where were you on that, Rocky? Because I had a lot of Bengals fans asking me, I don't know, I think they ought to get Burrow that protection in the first round. I went the other way, Rock. I said, listen to me, Jamar Chase is far and away the top wide receiver in this draft, elite. You got to go get him.
Yeah, Reg, I kind of went the other way. The way I looked at this draft, I thought, in my opinion, there was a lot of good offensive linemen throughout this draft. And Bengals certainly need help there. Got to protect the investment, which is Joe Burrow. But as I saw, there's a lot of good offensive linemen through this draft. I thought there was maybe 3 elite guys: Panay Sewell, Rashawn Slater, and I like the Christian Darrisaw kid out of Virginia Tech. So I thought if the Bengals are at 5, and hopefully they're not going to be at 5 next year and the next year, why not take that opportunity to get a what may be a truly transcendent offensive player in a Panay Sewell? I also looked at it. I mean, God, you can go through it, and the amount of first-round wide receiver busts in the NFL is very high. You look at N'Keal Harry, you look at Corey Davis. Now, he had a good year last year, but his first 3 years were kind of so-so. You go on down the list, a lot of first-round guys, a lot of first-round, hey, these guys are can't miss, Reds. Well, boy, they miss. So I just thought it was an opportunity for the Bengals to, as I said earlier, protect the investment, get Panay Sewell. Now, with that, they get Jamar Chase, he's a game-breaking wide receiver. The Bengals last year, it was very noticeable. And, A.J. Green was a good player who's kind of on the downside of his career. We got Tyler Boyd, who's a great slot wide receiver. T. Higgins, the second-round pick last year, nice tall target. But the Bengals severely missed out on a guy that could get off of press coverage. I mean, these wide receivers last year had a hell of a time getting off of press coverage and being able to get separation. Jamar Chase is that guy. He's the guy that can get off of get off of press coverage, can find a way to get separation, great catch radius. He has hands. I always, all these other things we look at with wide receivers and they're this and that. I want to see, can they catch? Because it's hard to be a guy who can't catch in college who becomes a great pass catcher in the NFL. He has all those traits. Again, I would have went Panay Sewell, but I think they got a nice pick. And now you look at it with those wide receivers. And also remember, we got Joe Mixon in the backfield. He has to be one of the happiest guys on this team because now who are you going to cover? You're going to cover Tyler Boyd, who's a demon in the slot. You're going to cover T. Higgins. You're going to cover Jamar Chase, or you're going to stack the box and attack Joe Mixon. So not my pick, but I think it certainly should work out well for the Bengals.
I was leaning towards Chase as well because I looked at, the offensive linemen and there were a good 5 or 6 with first round grade. Now, obviously, Sewell's the gem, right, of the draft, but they ended up taking Jackson Carman in the second round out of Clemson, who did a heck of a job with the Dabo Swinney squad protecting Trevor Lawrence in that. So you give a little to get what you really want, and you reunite like Peaches and Herb, Joey Burrow, right, and Lamar Chase from their days a few years ago when they threw for like 8,000 yards and 60 touchdowns in one season just between the two of them. So I didn't think they could go wrong either way with their two choices. And I like the fact that taking the receiver at 5 overall, they came right back and didn't hesitate and filled the need, getting an offensive tackle right there with the second pick, Rocky.
Let's talk about that because the Bengals had the 38th overall pick in the second round. They wound up trading with New England. They got 2 more fourth-round picks, moved back 8 slots to 46. Now, in those 8 slots, Tevin Jenkins, Liam Eichenberg, a couple really good offensive tackles went, and I'm sitting on my couch like, oh, my God, we just screwed this up. And only time will tell. I will say this. It's hard to tell if the Bengals moving back, because Zach Taylor said we would have taken Jackson Carman at 38 if we had to. We got him at 46. I don't know. If the New England Patriots did a move like that, everyone would say, boy, that was a great move. But the trust factor right now with the Cincinnati Bengals and this coaching staff is not very high. So, I don't know how to really relate that. Maybe those fourth-round picks turn out to be very good. I will say this about Jackson Carman. I think, first of all, he's a local kid, which is cool. I always think guys are local, you want to really show out. Your family's watching every single week. Jackson Carman was a tackle at Clemson. I think he's going to be a guard. I think he has to be a guard. I look at the 32.5-inch arms, and I don't get too much in these measurables, but most clubs won't take an offensive tackle who has under 33.25-inch arms. And now 32.5-inch, I think he more gauges more towards a guard. He hasn't played guard, but I know he's athletic. I know he's got some fight to him, and I think that's going to be the thing is they're going to let him come in. I think he's going to be a bit of a project. Do you want a project in the second round? I don't know, but hopefully he can comes in and play some good football.
Great to have Rocky Boiman with us. Nobody breaks down the Cincinnati Bengals and what they've done this weekend with the NFL draft better than Rocky. All right, I'll tell you the guy I like, the next selection. I like Joseph Asai, the young man from the Texas Longhorns. Rock, did you do any Texas games last year with ESPN?
Yeah, I didn't do any last year, Texas, or the year before. I think the year before that I had him a couple years in a row, but I did not get to see Asai play in person. I went back and watched a little bit on him. You like the burst, you like the athleticism. That's what this defense needs. I think they're solid in a lot of places. Of course, Sam Hubbard has really turned out to be a great pick a couple years ago, third round. But he's not really he's not like he's a really good pass rusher. He's a great player, one of the best players on this defense, but he's not like a fast twitch, get around me, run the edge guy. And this Bengals team was missing that ever since they let Carlos Dunlap go, which I think they should have done, even though he went to Seattle and played pretty well. So this team needed some pass rushers, and they got a couple in this draft. I think Asai looks pretty good.
Okay, well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was going to ask you about that. So with Trey Hendrickson, right, signed as a free agent, and gaudy numbers off the edge. But here's my question regarding Asai. Do you believe that he's going to begin as a pass rush specialist? As you move Hubbard inside, you got DJ Reader, correct?
Yes.
So it is maybe Asai's role more as I don't want to say a one down guy, but maybe as more of a pass rush specialist with Hubbard and Reader and Hendrickson there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, you can't have too many pass rushers. That's the old cliche, and that's certainly the reason why the Bengals targeted a few in this draft, because they were missing out on that edge guy, the guy that's screaming off the edge, that the offensive tackles and the quarterbacks are like, boy, we're getting a little uneasy with this. So hopefully they added that player in Asai, and I think, early on they'll probably say, hey, go get the quarterback on third down, and if he winds up being able to play the run down the road, that's more the better.
As you look at this team, how much better are they with what they did in the offseason moves, free agency, and in this draft now we can add the draft to the other guys on the roster, okay? 4-11-1 last year. So how much better, Rocky, do you think they are right now? Are they a 500 team potentially better, or are there still steps that they need to take and the Bengals fans need to be patient?
Yeah, I think they're better now after this draft. Of course, look, it's all a crapshoot. We don't know how these guys are going to turn out. I like the picks. I like a lot of them. I did not think this team was better after free agency. They targeted Riley Reese from the Vikings. They got him over, and he's a solid player. He doesn't all of a sudden change this dynamic of this offensive line, which needs to be upgraded. And it's been. Let me say this. This town loves Joe Burrow, and rightfully so. He's been fantastic. He came in. He got hit 72 times in 10 games. I mean, he was sacked a bunch. And this fan base literally took it personal when he got hurt, because they saw him running for his life back there and doing everything he possibly could and playing at a high level. His fan base took it personal when he got hurt. And now all of a sudden everyone's like, look, we got to protect this kid, because look, how you win in the NFL right now is you got to win while your quarterback is cheap. Okay, that's how you do it. You look at the Seattle Seahawks a few years ago. They get this kid named Russell Wilson out of the 4th round, and he doesn't cost them anything. So what can they do? They can pay Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman and all those guys on the Legion of Boom. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs a couple years ago. Patrick Mahomes was cheap. He was still on his first contract, so they could pay some defensive guys, some offensive weapons. So the window is very small right now for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to have 2 more years plus a 5th-year option. So some big-time winning has got to take place right now. So it comes down to protecting Joe Burrow. Everyone's very confident in him. So hopefully Riley Reese is an upgrade. Hopefully Jackson Carman can come along. Hopefully Deontay Smith, who was a pick out of East Carolina, comes on, can be a part of this group. Because that's what has to happen. You got to win while your quarterback is cheap.
Is Jonah Williams still the starting left tackle then? The guy they picked 2 years ago in the 1st round, right?
Yes, he is. But he missed his entire first year with an injury, and he
Right.
How many he played last year? Maybe it was 12 out of 16 games, something like. He had some injuries as well. He's been okay. He hasn't set the world on fire. I think now's the year for him where folks are going to say, okay, when's he going to live up to this first round grade? I think he can do it. Hasn't quite showed it yet. So Riley Reef on one side, Jordan Williams on the other side. Bengals fans are hoping that works out.
Yeah, Rock, I like the Trey Hill selection too. Maybe possibly by 22, he is the starting center underneath Joe Burrow, maybe.
Yeah,
Georgia.
Look, I like offensive linemen that come from Iowa, Wisconsin, Georgia, Alabama, those schools. Notre Dame, Ohio State. That's where you want your linemen. By the way, that was my only reservation with Penei Sewell. I hate to say it, but is that he played in the Pac-12, and that's not a conference known for road grading offensive lineman. He also hadn't played in 509 days because he opted out and still at age 20. But back to your point, to get a center from the Georgia Bulldogs, I've covered them in the last 2 years, and they always got the guys that look the part. And I think that was a nice selection for them getting him in the 6th round.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I want to find out, since he's a Notre Dame guy, I want to find out about JOK, man, coming to Cleveland. They wanted him in the 1st round. They said, no, we're going to take the corner and Greg Newsome. And then they wheel and deal Monty Hall. Let's make a deal up to 52. And JOK still there. So why did he fall? And how good is this kid? And is it the right scheme, I guess, as to why they moved up to get him in Joe Woods' defense?
Why did he fall? I think it's just the fact that he's, still people I think are a little hesitant on 220-pound linebackers. Even though this is now a game in space, there's no longer taking on ISO blocks all game long. Even when I played, which wasn't exactly 100 years ago, it's a game of space. But I still think, a guy who's 6'1", 6'2", 220-something pounds, what do you do with him? Is he an edge guy? Is he in the box guy? Is he just cover guy? I mean, I don't know. I know he's a damn good football player. Whenever I turn a Notre Dame game on, he's making plays. He's making tackles. He's in on the coverage. So I think it was a nice pickup for them. They'll figure out how to use him. That's what this league is about anymore. It's not necessarily anymore about design specific positions. It's about, look at Kyle Pitts. Is he a wide receiver? Is he a tight end? I don't know. He's a damn good football player. How about we throw him the ball and see what happens? Same thing with JOK. I think you put him out on the football field, you let him run around, you cut him loose, and I think he's going to make good things happen for that Browns defense.
Yeah, what a hell of a get by Andrew Berry.
Are you at all concerned that there might be a Jabril Peppers factor and not knowing how to use him properly? Because when Jabril came out, what was he? Is he a safety? Is he a corner? Is he a linebacker? And then you had Greg Williams playing him in Cuyahoga County, away from the defensive line. So, Reg, are you at all concerned about Owosu? How do you pronounce his name again? Jeremiah.
No. Just call him JOK, baby.
Koromoa. Are you at all concerned about that?
Nope.
No,
I'm, Rocky said it beautifully. I'm 100% in lockstep with Rocky. Can you run edge to edge? Can you and make plays? The young man to me was the best linebacker in college football last year. And he make plays. He can be around the football and with bad intentions, and he's going to lay wallops on ball carriers too. Now, if they're asking him to cover a lot, we'll see. And again, is that going to be part of the equation? I think he'll adapt to it in time. And again, I'm just thrilled with the pick. And I think this young man is going to have not only have a bright future, Rock, I think he's got a potential to be a perennial all-pro guy in the league. I really do.
I agree. I mean, again, we don't know what's going to happen here and how guys develop. In my career, I've seen guys that were drafted high, and they come in, Reg, in the first OTA day, you're like, that guy can't play. And then you see guys come who are a free agent pickup, and you're like, holy cow, this guy's a good player. I remember my rookie year, a kid named John Simon. I think he was out of SMU. He's an undrafted free agent. And no linebacker could cover him in one-on-one pass. No one could cover him. It was like one of those skills like where you did the count. You're like, okay, when you knew you were going against him, you went to the back of the line and tried to get that kind of thing happens. And that's why it's great to get these guys out on the field and see what they can really do.
All right, one last quick thing with Rocky Boiman. You know, I've taught, you know how much I love Joe Burrow, man. I mean, called saw him so many times through his dad, who was Frank Solich's defensive coordinator for years and years with the Ohio Bobcats. Love Coach Solich, love Coach Jimmy Burrow. Rock, I think, and Browns fans are not going to want to hear this, I think he's got a chance to make the Cincinnati Bengals pass game for all the reasons you mentioned, and with the additions and now Jamar Chase, possibly as potent as any pass game in the National Football League. And it might not take much in the distant future to make that happen. How about you? Do you think that can be the case?
I absolutely think it could be the case. Now, the issue is coming back from the ACL injury. And I've seen guys in my career come back very quickly. I've seen guys take a while because it's not, I mean, he's going to do the rehab. The knee's going to be stronger than it was before. It's just, it's up here, Reds. You know what I mean? That when there's crashes around and you're stepping into that throw and guys are falling on you, is there a little hesitation, or do you just kind of cut it loose and find a way to get that out of your head? That's what all these ACL injuries come down to. And how quickly that happens, we don't know. I don't know if he'll be ready 100% by week 1 or not. But if he is healthy and he can't have the right mindset to get the injury out of his head, I think this is one of the most prolific. You look at just the weapons this Bengals offense will have. I think they're one of the most prolific in the AFC. I really do. And then it just comes down to, again, protecting him.
Sure, no doubt about it. Okay, Rocky Boiman is a tremendous motivational speaker. I've heard some of those. Man, you're an author now? You're writing a book now? Go ahead, pump it up for us, man. There it is.
Yeah, Rocky's Rules. It's a playbook for becoming your best in challenging times. I read this book by a guy named Jordan Peterson, who's a great psychologist. It's called 12 Rules for Life, and I read it, and it was really wonky, and I'm probably not smart enough to understand it. It kind of went over my head. But after the book, I said, what are my rules for life? What are the things that, you know, my dad was a pretty strict, disciplined guy, and I like to feel like I live a pretty principled life. And I just thought, what are my principles, and what are they, and where did I learn them? A lot of times I learned them on the football field in the NFL. And so every chapter, it's not a biography, it's not a memoir. My life is not worthy of a memoir, but I think the things I write about in this book are good, especially for young people, young and old people. Just some core principles that we all need to be reminded of. I think that again, just help us be our best, help us become the best version of ourselves. That's all what we're trying to do every single day. Take what God gave us and make us the best possible version of ourselves we can be. And that's in the book. It's on Amazon. It's sold, I think it's sold about 1,300 copies already. So it's really done well.
Nice. So Amazon's the best way to do it. We want our listeners to be able to have that opportunity. You're a success already. You're going to continue to be a success. Can't tell you how much, buddy. It was great to catch up with you again, and that Kenny and I really appreciate you joining us to chop up the Bengals somewhat with their draft weekend.
Reg, you made my day when you reached out to me. Kenny, it was a pleasure being with you as well. And guys, anytime you need anything, happy to join. You guys do a great job.
Thank you, Rock.
Yep.
Rocky Boiman, everybody. Hell of a good man too. Hell of a good man. Like I said, one of my favorite guys that I've worked with, calling college football down through the years. Kenny, I don't know, man. Like I said there at the end, I really think that this Cincinnati offense got a chance to take off in the next few years. You know, Joe Mixon could stay healthy. He only played 6 games a year ago, I believe. And was it 10? Something like that. I know he didn't finish the year. But I think that they've drafted and put themselves in an excellent position to really accent the best of Joe Burrow.
Well, I think they're on the rise. The Steelers are on the decline, and it's the Bengals in the future that will be moving up and challenging the Ravens and Browns, who are the top 2 teams, Reg, heading into this season based on what they've done in the offseason. And the Ravens got an A grade from me, as did the Cleveland Browns. So let's get another break in, and when we come back, let's chop it up even more with the rest of the AFC North. The Steelers, I saw grades for them anywhere from C to an A. So a mixed bag of grades for the Steelers, but the Browns, and the Ravens getting A's almost across the board from most of the media outlets. We'll break it down even more when we return to the R&R podcast right after this.
Hi, my name is Sam Post, owner of Phenomenal CBD Store and PhenomenalCBD.com. That's like phenomenal, CBD.com. Tune in where we talk with experts about how the amazing hemp plant can make a difference for people's health and well-being from the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, it's Tito, host of the Premier Fantasy Podcast. Get all the news and analysis you need to dominate your fantasy league. I've been doing this as long as anybody in the business. I can help give you the edge in your leagues. It's the Premier Fantasy Podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hi, my name's Jeremy Powell, co-host of the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast. Check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts. For all your Browns coverage, post-game, pre-game, anything you need Browns, you'll find it here on the Oranges, Oranger, Browns podcast.
And we continue with the Ray Guy and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Producer Dave Emmert making sure that we stay on track, Ray Guy, and that's why we went to a break there, and now we get back on track talking AFC North. Brownies, Ravens, top two grades in the division, according to most of the media outlets grading the draft after it happens. The Bengals coming in third, and the Steelers, Reg. The Steelers finishing about I don't want to say a distant fourth, but in fourth place with mixed reviews on their draft. Give me your thoughts on how this shaped up for the AFC North, and indeed, did the Browns have the best draft in this division?
Probably overall, yes. However, for you, who I know the last couple of weeks, you've just absolutely stunned me with your evaluations of Mike Tomlin and how this Pittsburgh organization is on the decline. Rhoda doesn't give a damn about anything.
Ancient quarterback, losing coach in the months of December and January the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I think they are on the decline.
Okay. All right. How about this one? They got the best damn running back by far in the college game from the last couple of years with their 24th pick. Najee Harris, impact guy. You watch. I'm telling you, this has got NFL running back Pro Bowl all over him. I love Najee Harris. Kenny, you tweeted it the other day. You beat me to it. You can tell me all you want about Clemson and Ohio State, and they're both phenomenal football programs. Don't get me wrong. Sure. Don't try to tell me they're Alabama. They're not. Neither one of them are Alabama. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. What I'm trying to say is nobody does it better than Nick Saban. Now, you might not win the national championship every year. I get that, okay? But come on, man. 6 of the first 38 players selected played for Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Ain't nobody got close to that. Nobody's got close to that. Again, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the national championship every year. But they're always there, though, Ken, aren't they? So, I mean, you go play for Nick Saban in Alabama, you take care of your business. Kenneth Rhoda, there's a pretty damn good shot you're going to have a real strong opportunity to be a professional football player in the NFL and probably get drafted high, too.
Here's my concern with it, Reg. Pouncey's gone. Villanueva's gone. We talked there with Rocky Boiman just a second ago. What did Cincinnati do to protect Joe Burrow? What have the Steelers done to improve their offensive line? Is it going to matter who's at running back if there are no holes for Najee Harris to run through? They're still wondering what to do at left tackle. Villanueva may sign with the Ravens. We'll have to wait and see. Pouncey called it quits. DeCastro's on the decline at guard. And yes, the Steelers went out and eventually they picked up a center in Kendrick Green out of Illinois. And Dan Moore Jr., the Texas A&M offensive tackle, in round 4. So they waited till they got their, 2 targets or offensive boosts in Najee Harris and Pete Freiermuth from Penn State. But I worry about that offensive line and whether or not Najee Harris, who's used to running behind the best offensive line in college football, how's he going to, when he gets popped in the backfield for a 3-yard loss 2 or 3 times a game, how is he going to handle that? So I don't disagree. He's the best running back in the draft, Reg, but Miles already on those tires. Nick uses him a lot, and he's 23. So you better, in a 4 or 5 year window, you better have a line so you can use his skills while they're still there. So I would have went O-line first there instead of Najee Harris and picked up a Javonte Williams or somebody else maybe in the second round. But I think Darrisaw was the guy they wanted. He went a pick before them to Minnesota, I think it was. So they settled then, or in their case, they'll say, we got our guy, Najee Harris, at 24.
And I'm going to say, I think they'll find a way to get it done. I understand your concerns there, certainly. And but I think maybe not this year, but Kendrick Green, the young man who's played both guard and center from Illinois, they took him with the 3rd pick.
He's going to be their center, Reg. They're going to make him their center of the future.
What, play next to Kevin Dotson?
Yeah, I think he'll be the event, if not out of the gate, way midway through this upcoming season. I bet he ends up being the starting center for them. Yeah, I think so.
All right. Listen, I think he's got that little bit of mean and nasty streak about him, and I'm sure that's why the Steelers went out and got them. So, we'll see how that all plays out, of course. And so their top 3 are Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth. The thing about Freiermuth, Kenny, you're going to find out. I think you'll like this guy. Just isn't a pass receiving tight end. He's 6'7", but he's pretty good inline blocker too, and likes to do it. So I can understand that he's going to displace Eric Ebron, Kenny. Freiermuth, I think Freiermuth's going to be the guy.
Oh man, get his name right. It's Pat, not Pete. I was thinking of Pete Franklin when I wrote the name down here because it's pretty close to that. But Freiermuth, how about this? I've heard 2 things about him. And if he turns out to be either one of these guys, then it's a great pick. Baby Gronk. I've heard that nickname thrown around. Or the next Heath Miller in Pittsburgh. And if he turns out to be anything close to Heath Miller, then Steeler fans will absolutely love Pat Freiermuth from Penn State, 6'5", and 251 pounds. So we'll see. They went with the offensive weapons first there and then got their linemen after that in the next 2 picks. So we'll see if that works out for Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But what about the Ravens, Reg? They had 2 picks in that first round at the back end of it, man. And, they needed receiver help. And I was curious to see if they would go get a receiver there with the first pick of that first pick of the 2 they had in the first round, or if they would wait, get the best player available and then come back with the wide receiver at 31. Well, Rashad Bateman was there out of Minnesota and they grabbed him at 27. What did you think of them going wide receiver first with those 2 picks?
Yeah, well, that's, Eric DeCosta kind of mentioned that earlier in the weekend. And Kenny, again, not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but everybody else does it. So, I mean, what the hell? When we get something right, I think Rega and Rhoda can do it too. Did we not get all 4 of the first round picks for the AFC North squads right on the money?
I forgot what I had for breakfast, Reg, but I know we talked heavily about Newsome. We mentioned that they needed a wideout, and they would probably get one of the 2 as a wideout there.
I know we said Najee Harris for Pittsburgh. I knew we said Bateman for Baltimore. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, it said it's either going to be Chase or Penei Sewell. So, yeah, okay. There you go. Just a little bit of, letting you folks, we do our homework when we bring you R&R. All right, so Baltimore, you knew they need a wide receiver that then for them. Kenny, I wouldn't say Rashad Bateman is a big-time burner, but he certainly showed at Minnesota the ability to, and, Minnesota hadn't exactly had the most outstanding quarterback play the last couple of years, but he showed the ability that at times, whether it's double moves or what, he could take the top off. You knew he was going to be a first-round receiver, and I just thought that was for the way Eric DeCosta, their general manager, was talking and knowing John Harbaugh felt like that they had to get the receiver, so that's exactly what they did. How do you feel about the rest of their draft? The next couple of they got 10 kids, don't they? I I think they got
1, 2,
10.
3, 4, 5,
10?
6,
Am I
7,
wrong
8.
about that?
I have them down for 8, but I
Okay.
might have missed them because I was eating pierogies earlier when I was putting
That's all right.
this list together. But they picked up Owe from Penn State, the outside linebacker, defensive end.
Jason Owe. We discussed him the other night.
Yeah. So I can't argue with the way they draft their Reg, right? It's hard to question.
Well.
Yeah, they do. And they're used to drafting in this position. That's why, again, going back to Andrew Berry, that's the first time the Browns have been picking at 26 late in the draft. And to have a draft like that they did, that's another, tip of the cap to Andrew Berry. So for them doing it for a first time, they did outstanding. The Ravens are used to this. And then they had Ben Cleveland out of Georgia in the 3rd round. They got, I think, I'm curious to see Shaun Wade out of Ohio State in the 5th round. See how that
better play
plays.
him in the slot. It ain't gonna work on the outside the numbers.
Oh, we saw he ain't no outside.
I saw that last year.
Yeah,
I kind of feel bad for the young man because he's right there with that group that came in highly acclaimed. As guys who he's going to come out in the 20. But there's a young man that last year, by being moved from the slot to outside the numbers, that really took a toll on him. And Kenny, I thought he was a 2nd round guy, and you could tell that as a oh boy, this is going to be telling on him, more than likely falling, and that's exactly what happened. But he got selected, and he's got a shot. But I can't see him being anything other, unless they might put him at a strong safety and have him play more in the box, But if he's going to be covering people, it's got to be the slot.
He's the opposite of Denzel Ward. Denzel can cover, can't tackle. Shaun Wade, good tackler, had trouble covering last year, had one big play the entire season. Now, he said he was hurt, foot injury or something like that may have hampered him last year. We'll have to see, but the Ravens took a shot on him in the 5th round. That's a steal for them, for a kid that was, like you said, supposed to be a 2nd round talent. So we'll see if they do what they normally do and find a gem or a player that falls and turns out to be a starter for them for many, many years. It's just what they do. So, Reg, when I look, like I said, I think it's Browns, Ravens, Bengals, Steelers in that order as far as the draft class. And people don't get too riled up about that because they still have to play football. We're going by grades on paper, what we saw in college, where they were selected, what they did to get, So I think that's the way I would grade it. Browns 1, Ravens 2, Bengals 3, Steelers 4 in this draft. But we're going to find out when the season rolls around. And in 1 to 3 years, we'll know even more who had the better drafts because it usually takes 2 to 3 years, Reg, to find out how these guys fit into the roles. When holes open up, guys leave through free agency and they have to step into bigger roles.
Well, at least a couple, 2 to 3 years. And we certainly know it's not an exact science trying to look at young men that, whether they were ungodly, all worldly in college or somewhere on the bottom end of that. And you're saying, well, I see this little bit in this guy. Maybe in our system, we can get something out of him and everything else in between. It's you really can't put a finger on anything. As we said to start, you gave them an A right off the top. I think I'm going to go A- for the Browns, and I'll tell you why. We didn't get into it because we certainly got a lot of great things from Rocky Boiman with regard to the Cincinnati Bengals. Kenny, before we get out of here, I'm not that really high on Anthony Schwartz, the young man that the Browns took as a wide receiver. I know 4.26. Well, that's great. And that's fantastic. And so you say, well, he had 3 touchdown catches last year. Here's what I got the questions on, Ken, and you and I will revisit this. That's great. I just think he's a predominant straight line speed guy. I looked at tape. I haven't seen that he understands the concepts of running the route tree, Kenny. And to me, just a guy that can fly. Well, we know that that's easily dealt with in the National Football League, right? Defenses are too sophisticated. Again, if I'm wrong and Schwartz turns out to be a hell of a strong pick, of course. I just didn't see his entire body of work as a wide receiver as that exceptional at Auburn. Now, again, okay, so he's playing SEC. And we said that you're playing against SEC players who 90% of them, they're getting drafted if you play in the SEC. But before I can put full belief into that pick in him, I'm going to have to see how that develops.
Here's what I'll say, Reg, after talking to somebody who scouts the NFL. He told me, he said, they're not going to need much from him this year. This is a learning year. So that route running that you talked about, this is where he has an opportunity. He's a third-round pick. They ain't cutting him. So he should realize that. So he needs to get better with his route running. And his future is, and this is something Andrew Berry talked about before the draft, some of these guys we're drafting for the future, not just for this year. And he's one of those guys, okay? But where they can get him the football, according to this scout that I talked to, he said on those bubble screens and the jet sweeps, and then get him on the outside and then make one cut and go. So that's where he might be able to contribute this year. But the future is where they're looking for him to be a bigger part of this offense. And you can't teach speed. I mean, you either have it or you don't. And 4.25, 4.26, whatever, 4.2 anything, man. That's Olympic type speed right there. And we'll see if in the end, does he have a career like Willie Gault? I think the Browns would be thrilled if he had, a career like Willie Gault had, the Olympic sprinter and everything. So, yes, was it maybe a reach at 3 in the third round? Probably, Reg. Yeah, it's fair that you say maybe that's the one knock in this draft class, because I saw his grade and it wasn't a third round grade. It was more of a 6th or 7th round grade. But again, 4.25, fastest receiver in this draft, fastest man in this draft. So speed kills is what they say. We'll see if he's able to better develop as a receiver in the other areas, the route running, the blocking, and of course, making sure you catch the football.
Well, he's going to have to. And real quickly, Demetric Felton, the young,
what about
very
him? I know nothing about him.
I like him, man. Yeah. I think same thing. The Browns, if they can get out of him what they got out of last year's 6th round draft pick, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think the Browns to start out his career as the third back behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think the Browns would be absolutely thrilled by that. In other words, you put him on the football field, he'll make plays when we give him the opportunity to. And don't be surprised to see this young man play some slot too, Kenny, in the pass receiving game. He did that at UCLA with the Bruins. And I know he caught 3 red zone touchdown passes last year. I was looking at that. And so they certainly used him in a way that can accent his skills. Looks like he's a young man that can catch the football out of the backfield too. So I think that really adds to Chubb and Hunt, and maybe gives them whether it's just who knows, it might be just as a third down guy here and there, Ken. But it certainly looks like it gives them another weapon. Either of those guys return guys, Reg? Felton, yes. I don't believe I ever saw Anthony Schwartz return kicks for Auburn. Now, don't take that as 100% gospel. I just don't ever remember seeing it. No. How about this then? I'll rephrase the question. Do you think maybe the Browns are thinking about possibly taking one of the two if they haven't done it and saying, all right, special teams is how you guys are going to help us this year in coverage units, maybe more so than anything else, and return game? Is it possible maybe they look to one of those two guys as a returner? No doubt. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I think both of them may get a shot, to be sure. But certainly Demetric Felton, because he's got, again, he checks all the boxes in that resume. I really, really liked it and put in the tape of him again, too, after the Browns took him and said, yeah. I remember last year thinking this kid is making an impact with UCLA. And the biggest thing for me, Ken, is the ability to catch the football out of the backfield, because, think, every running back can do that. No, they can't. No, they can't. Not at the National Football League level. So Felton has proven he can do that, and we'll see if that's something that the Browns capitalize on. All right, your favorite pick by the Browns is who? My favorite pick of the Cleveland Browns. Well, it's probably right there between their first two. I really like Greg Newsome. I thought he, to me, next to J.C. Horn was the very best cornerback in the draft. When you just put everything together and look at the whole picture, I like Newsome right behind Horn. That's a phenomenal pick. And J.O.K. at 220 pounds, I think he is going to bring the type of linebacking play, Kenny, that we have not seen for quite some time with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, running sideline to sideline and being able to thump people. And I don't worry about the two, like Rocky Boiman said it, don't worry about the 220-pound thing. This young man is a hitter and a football player. And then that's why, he was one of the very best at it in college football last year, playing at that high a level. So I'm excited about both those two guys.
And they can always put weight on him, Reg. Get him up to 230 if they need to, have a little more thump when he hits by adding some poundage. I like the Newsome pick without question. At 26, I love that they were patient and they just let the draft play out. And Newsome, who was one of their guys, according to everything I've read, was there and they grabbed him. They were debating between he and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and they ended up getting both of them. So you got to love that. But for me, again, and it's not because he's a Buckeye, it's because what I saw him do when he played as a Buckeye this past year. Go back to that Clemson game and what he did. I love the pickup in the 4th round. You talk about value of Tommy Togiai, the defensive tackle. And also, Reg, don't forget, they picked up Marvin Wilson out of Florida State as an undrafted rookie free agent. He was a 5-star recruit when he came out of high school. So they got 2 defensive tackles in this draft, if you will, in Togiai, 6'2", 296, and Marvin Wilson, 6'3", 319, that played, big-time college football. So the Sheldon Richardson thing, I don't think they're going to revisit that and bringing him back unless there's an injury and he's still out there. I think they addressed it with these two young guys in the draft. And I thought Togiai was great value at pick in the 4th round there. In the 4th round, they had 2 4th rounders, and he was the 2nd pick in the 4th round for them. So I thought it was great value.
You see, I'm holding my thumb and forefinger just a little bit apart. Come on now. A little bit you like it because he's an Ohio State Buckeye. A little bit. When it comes to the NFL, okay? All right. And you know me, and I hate the Wolverines of Michigan. All right. But if you can play and help my team at the NFL level, Notre Dame or Michigan? We just said it to Rocky, but I know your total disdain. Yeah. You call them the crying Irish.
The crying Irish, yeah, because they bitch and moan all the time.
Rocky would have laughed if you said that, by the way.
That's a toss-up, Reg. I always root for them to play 12 overtime so they get beat up and the next opponent can whoop up on them in the next game. So, but hey, if you can play and help my team at the NFL level, I don't care if you played at Mount Union, the arch rival of Baldwin Wallace, or Michigan, the arch rival of Ohio State. But I watch more Ohio State football than anything else. So, seeing Togiai, I was, looking at him saying, man, somebody's going to get a collapse the pocket middle guy there that they're going to love. And he's going to have a, 6 to 10 year career just doing the dirty work. And he'll love doing that, Reg. So the Browns, nice job.
Yeah, he's very powerful. And I like everything that you're implying with him. Now, he's probably, a one technique. Kenny, I think he's got to do, he says that he's really going to show he's working on becoming an inside forceful pass rusher. Well, that's great. But Tommy, I'm more concerned, get off blocks better in the run game, son. That's the one thing, Kenny, and again, you got to understand, sometimes that's a doubles team. I get that, sometimes that center and guard will come down on that nose, but I think he's got to learn to get off blocks better to be more effective against an NFL run game. So we'll see if that's the case. Very powerful young man, and somebody that I'm hoping that when he's in there with, Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney and Malik Jackson, he should be the type of young man that's a sponge, Ken, and learns a hell of a lot from those veteran D linemen.
Yeah, and let's see what this Marvin Wilson brings. As supposedly he was the top-ranked undrafted free agent, and he chose the Browns over everybody else. So, great job by Andrew Berry, even after the draft was Reg, I remember Andrew Berry saying we had 114 that we were going to draft and 54 others we were probably going to look at as undrafted free agents. And boom, he goes out and has the best draft of the AFC North, in my opinion, and then gets the top guy in all of the undrafted free agents. So again, I love what Andrew Berry has done. I'm impressed through 2 years, one of the youngest GMs in all of the National Football League, and how he's been able to transform this roster now into what is a divisional challenger, and I think an AFC challenger, and hats off to him.
Yeah, Browns fans got to feel phenomenally good about Andrew Berry and his ability to construct a roster through his and his personnel people's evaluations. And man, they have done that beautifully over the course of his time running the show for the Browns. So I agree with you. I expect nothing but more great things to come from him. And if you got him at the wheel of this, Kenny, good things should be ahead. Now it's up to Kevin Stefanski and his coaching staff to get this thing coached up and put in the proper philosophies that best suit but again, it's the other way around too. Barry said, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get them guys that we see as multi-year producers in how we want to play football here. So, Kenny, it's a win-win right now. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't feel good about it if you're a Browns fan.
And I don't know how you couldn't feel good about it if you're Joe Woods, the defensive coordinator. After what he didn't get last year, Andrew Berry made up for it this year, right, Reg, in free agency and the draft.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last year the accent was on the offensive side of the ball. So this year it turns over to the defensive side of the ball. And I think there's a real good chance in that first game in early September, Kenny, there will be 6, if not 7 new guys who start, or let's just say in the rotation of say 20 to 22 guys that were nowhere near a part of this last year. And that's a good thing, because that's the Browns were, we've said it before, okay at times defensively, but also at times defensively got shredded and had issues. So I think that's going to improve dramatically.
All right, last thing before we get out of here. We'll call it a night. The quarterbacks, Reg, 1, 2, and 3, 1 and 2. No surprise with Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, Wilson and the Jets, but 3, Trey Lance to the 49ers. And then you had Justin Fields. The Bears move up, get him at 11, and Belichick gets his guys supposedly. Mac
no
Jones,
surprise, huh?
At 15.
Nick Saban guy. Well,
right,
okay,
yeah. His first 2 picks were Nick Saban guys. So give me your thoughts. Forget the first 2. We kind of knew that. But Trey Lance to San Fran, were you surprised by that?
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, if I thought that, honestly, I was wrong, because I thought that Kyle Shanahan was just putting up a big smoke screen on everybody, Kenny. Remember, he's Mac Jones. We love Mac Jones, man. We like guys who throw from the pocket, so we're going to go get Mac Jones. And then I thought, well, for sure, he's going to take Justin Fields if he doesn't take Mac Jones. A young man that could come in and run his offense and do it with a lot of agility and his quarterback mobility. But now it wasn't the case. He went and got Trey Lance. Yes, surprised by that. I think Lance is going to need a couple years. That's just me. We'll see. I wish no ill will on the young man. I want everybody that comes into the NFL to do their thing and then go. I just don't see it. He only played like 17 football games in his college career. 1 last year.
Mac Wilson only played 17, though, too. That was the argument that they were using as to why. Now, granted, Mac Jones, North Dakota State versus Alabama, there's a big difference. I understand.
I guess Alabama were the national champion. But see, listen, I think with Coach McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, and Bill Belichick, I think that Mac Jones has got a shot to supplant Cam Newton, because boy, Cam Newton to me is just falling off the rails, Kenny.
Yeah.
So, but again, maybe Belichick, he might say, no, I need to have him sit, watch, listen, and practice for a year. Could be, but I do think eventually he's going to be the New England quarterback. Yeah.
And I think right away, Justin Fields has a chance to play over Andy Dalton. I've never been a fan of Andy Dalton.
Right?
I think he's the ideal backup quarterback like Fitzpatrick in the NFL. I don't see him as a starter, so I think the Bears did the right thing.
Well, Nick
moving
Foles
up.
is there too. Yeah, but both of them. I mean, Chicago fans have got to be ecstatic about that because, that's every year with them. They had to deal with the Mitch Trubisky thing the last few years, right?
Yep.
And, that obviously did not go well as it thought. Now, I know they made the playoffs last year, but is he still there? He's not there anymore. And number one, what did Trubisky? No, Trubisky.
He went somewhere. He's a backup somewhere else now. I
know, but I mean, what was he overall? 3, 2, 3? I can't remember now. Like you said,
they moved up way too high.
Yeah.
They passed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes to get, Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah, I know. And he's a local kid. We wished him well, but it didn't work out. Maybe it'll work out somewhere else.
As did Sashi Brown to take Corey Coleman.
There you go. Yeah,
how's that to end our night?
Yeah, way to go. Thanks, Reg. We go from.
It's okay. No, forget that. Remember what we both said a moment ago. It's in good hands now. Yes. Everything's cool. It's all righted, and it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun for the next many years being a Cleveland Browns fan. No question.
Without question. All right, Reg, always fun to talk draft with you. A couple of weeks, we'll get back at it. Yeah. We'll wrap up that Cavaliers woeful season, throw dirt on that, baby, which is...
I watched that game last night just for you, so I could be ready to roll next time we get together.
Oh, great. Looking forward to that. And then we'll talk some Indians baseball, too, and, of course, more Browns as we roll along, as that's going to drive the sports vernacular, as you like to say, Reg, moving forward throughout this entire 2021 year. All right, there it is. Another one in the books. It's the NFL Draft Review edition of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast. Thanks again to our producer, Dave Emmert, executive producer, Chase Smith, and please subscribe. If you're just listening right now, you can subscribe on the Press Play Podcast Network. I'll say that again. You can subscribe on the Press Play Podcast Network and check us out whenever we drop one of these. You'll be the first to get it and listen and see what the R&R podcast is talking all about. All right, Reg, be well, my friend. We'll do this again real soon.
Stay well, everybody.